Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at a complete care guide for the red-eyed crocodile skink. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Dakota, you already made a video on this. Well, yeah, that's true. However, it was pretty hard to get the information out there when the video quality looks like this. Just being filmed with my cell phone, where I also didn't know how to project my voice very well, and then pairing that with background music that's way too high, you get video quality that looks like this. Crocodile skink is So yeah, we're going to make a better, actual watchable video as a version 2. So, with the intro out of the way, let's get into the care guide. Starting out, we're going to be going over everything you're going to be needing and knowing. That's going to be things like the heat, humidity, lighting requirements, and then of course the decorations that you're going to be needing and everything to make sure that your crocodile skink is feeling safe and secure in their enclosure. I'll be honest, the really main and only reason why I wanted these guides is of course they look awesome, but other than that, they are one of the few species in the reptile world that we can keep in captivity that display parental instincts. This has always fascinated me, as you guys can tell, which is why I own 10 tokay geckos. I love seeing the parental dynamics as far as reptiles go with their young, and I definitely wanted to exhibit it firsthand. Starting out, let's talk about heat and humidity. So when dealing with the red-eyed crocodile skinks, you're going to want your temperatures to be anywhere around the 71 to high 70s area, and then of course with the humidity anywhere from 70 to 90%. Now these are definitely a high humidity species, and not being able to provide that humidity will definitely be detrimental to the animal. It's kind of one of the reasons why I feel like the red-eyed crocodile skink is a great candidate for tubs versus aquariums or glass tanks. I just happen to want to go all out with my first pair, so I did this Exoterra behind me that's fully planted and bioactive, but in the future when I do get more, I believe I'll be using tubs for them, just because it's going to be a lot easier for me to handle the husbandry that they're going to be needing. But how are you going to be able to provide the proper temperatures and humidity that they're going to need? Well, there's a few ways to do it, and let's start with temperatures. So for temperatures, it's really going to be depending on where you live and how hot your house is. For instance, for me, my reptile room stays at around 73 to 75 degrees, sometimes a little colder in the winter, sometimes a little warmer in the summer. So for that, I don't really need to provide any extra heating, because honestly the UVB bulb that I use produces just enough heat to raise that little basting temp that they're going to be needing, which we'll go into the UVB a little bit later, but first we need to get into humidity. As I stated before, humidity is a big factor with these guys, and you're definitely going to want to be using some of these things to make sure you're providing the proper humidity. The top 3 things that I'm doing right now, and of course I'm doing this if you're using an aquarium or Exoterra, so these sources will be more towards those, but they can use for any of them. Number 1 is going to be a deep substrate. You're going to want a nice wet substrate, not sopping wet, but a little damp, moist, things like that, so it's able to provide proper humidity for longer periods of time versus just using like half an inch of cocoa fiber. Personally for me, I did a complete mix for mine using Scott's topsoil, sphagnum moss, and then some cocoa fiber mixed in there just to give that little texture. I think it provides a great humidity source, and especially if you're using humid hides, which we'll get into next. What are human hides? Human hides are just a simple little hideaway thing you can give, stacking some extra humidity in there to make sure that your animal's getting as much humidity as they want. It's a fairly simple process. I'll just say an example for mine is using a cork flat that I kind of put and bury a little bit into the dirt and stuff some sphagnum moss in there. That's going to create a definitely nice humidity zone where it's going to be 90+% humidity in there, and they're going to enjoy that a lot. Number 2, using live plants in your enclosure. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dakota, live plants are hard to keep alive. I'm not very good at it. I don't have the green thumb. Well, you guys already know, some of you that have been pretty in this channel for the past couple of months, I suck at keeping plants alive. Over the years, I've probably killed hundreds of dollars worth of plants just by, I don't know, not doing what I'm needing to be doing. So here's a list of a couple plants that have survived in my enclosures and have been doing very well. My number 1 plant to go to is definitely pothos ivy. I love pothos. It's indestructible. I have it in pretty much all of my enclosures because it's pretty easy to come by. It's cheap, and like I said, they live through anything. I can flood it, I can dry it out. I mean, I've not watered pothos pots for like months, and they somehow are still alive. Not looking very good, but still alive. You put some water in there, boom, good as new. Pothos is invincible, and I love pothos. I think any species of low-light ivy is going to be your best pick, something that's going to be a little more easier to care for when you don't have the green thumb like me or have too much knowledge on taking care of plants. Another one that I really enjoy that seems to be doing very well in my tanks are going to be the prayer plant. They're pretty easy to come by. I got mine at a local nursery, but I believe I've seen them at like Walmarts and Home Depots as well. It's a pretty common house plant for people. Now, I will say the prayer plant does need a little bit more light than, say, pothos and things like that, so you will need a grow light or some sort of LED light producing some sort of color temperature for those plants. However, I love it because it produces these nice thick leaves that the crocodile skinks can feel a little more secure under and use that as more of a hiding place as well. Number 3, for getting that humidity just right, is going to be seal that enclosure up at the top. That open screen up there, humidity is just wafting right out like it's nothing. You can go, there's a couple ways to do it. You can go as expensive at getting custom glass or plexiglass cut and filling it to that hole. If you're using an Exoterra like me, you can cover all 4 sides and be totally good. You just need one spot open for your UVB bulb because UVB cannot penetrate through glass or plexiglass, things like that. A couple of the cheaper options you can do is doing some sort of metal tape like I did for mine, because I did not go the expensive glass route, or even say like putting a towel over the screen is going to help just a little bit in keeping that humidity in there. I mentioned UVB like 2 or 3 times, so let's make the next one UVB. Yes, red-eyed crocodile skinks do require UVB. I give it to all my red-eyed crocodile skinks and the baby as well. Pretty easy. It's just a compact bulb, the ZoomEd 5.0 in a little Exoterra canopy. I like those the best because they cover well on the Exoterra little screen top, so it kind of covers that entire mount. So again, that's a way to keep that humidity in where I don't have to leave that space open and have more humidity go out. UVB options are going to be either tube lighting ZoomEd or the Arcadia bulbs. They work very well as well. As far as the humidity length, you're going to want at least anywhere from an 8 to 10 inch range where the crocodile skink can get to it. You don't want it too close, so they can suffer UVB burns, and you don't want it too far away, saying like 18 to 20 inches up, because those UVB rays are not going to be able to penetrate that far down, and your croc skink is not going to be able to receive those rays. So we went a little into the care requirements. Now let's get into the diet of the red-eyed crocodile skink. Now, red-eyed crocodile skinks are insectivores, so you're going to want to be feeding a large variety of insects. Personally for me, I feed a variety of dubia roaches, crickets, mealworms, superworms, silkworms, and the occasional hornworm as a treat when I can find them. A couple others are also going to be the calcium worms and the phoenix worms. Those are great sources. You can find them pretty easy on online sources. I don't see them too much in pet stores though. And then red wigglers, of course, are going to be a great added for anything like a bioactive enclosure and also food source. It doubles as an enrichment process because the animals can be able to dig down and eat the worm. Now, I'm a huge believer in giving variety to animals is going to be the best way you can do it. They're going to get all kinds of sources of fats, proteins, and calcium through these insects instead of just giving one staple diet. And then, of course, always make sure you're gut loading those animals 24 hours before you're feeding them, just to make sure that the animal is as nutritious as it can for your animal. And then lastly, we'll be going over what to fill your tank with in order to make sure that your new red-eyed crocodile skink is thriving. So as I stated earlier, the red-eyed crocodile skink is a very shy and reclusive species, so you're going to be wanting a lot of hides. Personally, myself, I use about 5 cork flat hides right now, and I also do have multiple live plants that create a little bit of dense foliage that they can hide under also. The second most important thing you're going to be needing in that enclosure is a large water source. Now, the red-eyed crocodile skink does get its name, although not great swimmers, they do really enjoy the water. I often will catch mine in the water area where I also give 2 little hides so they can hide under and feel a little more secure. The water area is also going to double as a good humidity source because having large bodies of water as it evaporates creates humidity. As I stated, the red-eyed crocodile skink is not a great swimmer, so it is important to give that water level a bit on the lower side. Me myself, I give about an inch of water. You can give a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. I like to have an inch so they're able to at least completely submerge their bodies into, and even dive in and swim a little bit around if they want to. I also make sure in my water area that I give multiple little places where they can step out of the water, and even, as you guys can see, the wood where they can climb out and into as they want. Then lastly, I'll touch up on I am a huge advocate for bioactive enclosure for these guys. It's nothing but pros for this species. Putting those live plants is going to add a little humidity bump for as if you just use fake ones. And of course, the cleanup crew is going to be eating that waste, making sure you don't have to go in there and do those spot cleanings, keeping their stress down a little bit better. If you guys are interested in bioactive enclosures and want to know a little bit more about them, I do have a video that I'll link right here that shows like a pretty basic bioactive setup that's pretty cost efficient, and it's actually the one that I use for my baby red-eyed crocodile. So while editing this video, I realized that there are a few points I missed that I wanted to go over before finishing this video, so we're going to go over them right now. Let's talk about enclosure size. Now, enclosure size is going to be dependent on if you're going to be having a wild-caught adult, or maybe you found a captive bred supplier and have a CB baby. Now, as far as the minimum adult size, I would say a 20 gallon, as you know, gallon size, a 20 gallon long for a single and a 40 for a pair. Now if you're having a baby, you're going to want to keep that a little bit smaller. Putting in a 20 gallon right off the bat, unless you have it pretty dense as far as decorations go, he would be a little stressed out and would hide a lot more often. So I would do something like a 5 gallon tank, or even like the 12 by 12 Exoterra that I have behind me. That'll make him feel a little more secure in a smaller space, and as he gets bigger, you can always upgrade to larger setups. I also want to talk a little bit about cohabbing before we end the video. Now, a lot of people, as soon as they get the red-eyed crocodile skink, they hear about, oh, well, they have parental instincts and they bond and pair off and you can keep 2 in an enclosure, so they immediately want to go buy the opposite sex gender to have a breeding pair. Now, while it is possible for these guys to pair off and bond, you know, for life and be totally fine cohabiting in an enclosure, it doesn't always work out and you need to be prepared for that. So if you are one of those guys with a male and you want to put a female in as a breeding pair, just make sure you have a separate enclosure and everything you're going to be needing to house that extra guy in case things don't go planned. I think that was everything I wanted to go over. You know, all in all, a great species, just a little more reclusive than some would like and a little more fragile. As long as you're keeping those humidity levels proper though and have some dense foliage with a lot of hideaway places that they can hide to, your croc skink shouldn't have any problem thriving. That's about all the stuff that I wanted to wrap up. Just wanted to make sure I get those couple things in there because I think they're a little important. Other than that, I think I'm all set. So take it away, Past Dakota, with your outro. I think that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for this video. I tried to get a little bit more detailed in the things that I was saying instead of just going over a broad generality. Kind of mix the video up a little bit. If you guys think I missed anything or want to add anything of your own, make sure to leave me a comment in the comment section. If you liked the video, please feel free to give us a thumbs up. If you want to see some more of my animals or breeding projects, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at GBCB Exotics. Other than that, thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.